to another episode of Behind the Form with GoFormz. My name is Keith Bateman, and I'll be taking you through this short presentation today. Once again, today's topic, which I will put up on the screen right now, is 3 construction companies saving time and cost. So really today we'll be highlighting three major clients of GoFormz and how they went from kind of paper-based or manual time-consuming processes to making a leap to digital with GoFormz, and how you could do those things today, whether you're a small workforce, medium-sized, or even enterprise, like many of these customers. It's not tough to do it because of the way GoFormz seamlessly transitions you to a digital-first workplace. So let's not take too much time. That's the point of these. We want to get short to the point and get knowledge across to you. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment on the session. Feel free to reach out to myself on LinkedIn. Once again, my name is Keith Bateman. You can find me on LinkedIn. Always happy to answer any questions. So feel free to reach out to me or reach out to our team at GoFormz.com. After the session, we're always happy to help you out. So the agenda today is pretty straightforward. Once again, we want to make sure we frame this around the challenges that construction clients are facing when they come to us. Then we're going to cover those 3 companies that have made the jump to digital with GoFormz. One is Oscar W. Larson. The second is Elecnor, a major global player in construction. And then the third is Bozzuto, who is a major, at least on the East Coast, a huge regional builder here. Here in Virginia, DC, Maryland, you know them, you've heard of them. So these are 3 major clients, 3 major companies that have made the transition. So we're happy to highlight them and how the results they've seen since switching over to GoFormz. And then obviously we'll conclude and wrap up today's session. So let's dig into it. What are these challenges? Not only that these 3 companies are facing, but things that you may be facing and why you may want to start looking into tools like GoFormz. Well, one is, we know that with the construction industry, many of the things like you see on the screen today are probably comments you've probably heard year over year. The first thing is that there's a productivity gap. Things are scaling up. There's a lot of projects going on, but the growth within the industry is kind of stagnating, and it's only grown by only 1% over the past 2 decades. So many companies, many organizations are looking for tools to gain an edge and increase those individual productivity gains across their projects. And many of these tools are tools like GoFormz that can help you save time, save money, and stay on track and on time for those large-scale projects. The second thing is labor shortages and upskilling. As you can see there, as it's pointed out, over 20% of the construction workforce is expected to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. And so what's going to fill that gap? Some of it could be younger generations taking up the trades and taking up those construction jobs when that generation retires. But some of that can be supplemented by digital tools like GoFormz that require less manual input, less human input, and can help close some of that gap between the workforce retirements and the people doing the work. Because with a digital tool in your hand, you can get 2, 3, 4x time as much as done than you could with just a piece of paper. So that's the thing. We're not here to replace human jobs and things like that. We're here to make the people doing the jobs in the field faster and more efficient, so they can get 2 or 3x more done. And you don't necessarily have to, if you do, have job hiring issues, or if you're struggling finding the right people, those tools can make the existing staff more efficient with what they're doing day to day. The third thing is complexity of projects and the amount of data, volume of data that you're capturing. We know projects aren't getting simpler. We know projects that you're taking on are growing and they're getting more complex. Clients want more from you. And as you see here, and this was pulled from a WEF study this past year, that the average project can be compiled of 130 million emails, 55 million documents, and 12 million work orders. That is a lot of data to have to keep track of. That's a lot of data to have to store somewhere. And if you're not utilizing digital solutions to capture that information, share that information, route it to the right systems, analyze it, and report on it, I can see why projects fall behind on their timelines, because that is a lot of data to have to consume and report on. So that is one thing we have to address, and many companies are running into. And then finally, the last two things are, there is a new demand for data transparency. The higher ups want to know what's going on their projects. They want to know how projects are progressing. They want to know what issues are arising. They want to know what actions are being taken, if they're being taken in real time. It's that need for data transparency across all sites, all projects, all teams, and being able to see that in real time is becoming crucial, so that you can address issues before they become a recurring one. And then sustainability is obviously a big thing nowadays, and has been for the last decade or so. And so making sure you have the right ways to report environmental concerns, report to the government bodies that you need to, and doing that in an efficient manner, and so that you can capture that data, share that data, and report on it in a effective way. So let's go into those three companies that have seen a major impact by making the transition to digital tools like GoFormz. The first one is Oscar W. Larson. So they've been around for 80-ish so years. They're a major player when it comes to contracting, especially in the Midwest. They are the go-to for fueling and fuel handling. But now they've kicked off in the most recent years, new construction, to ongoing maintenance services. They basically offer a complete suite of services for your needs. Everything from EV, charging solutions, to alternate energy infrastructures. They're a power player in terms of the full suite of construction services. Why they came to GoFormz in the first place was that because they're doing so much, because they're documenting so much, so many processes, they were struggling with the amount of documentation, and that being significantly paper-based. Because things like energy audits and work orders and timesheets, all these pieces of data for all their employees were taking time not only to be filled out in the field, but it was a struggle for the office staff to have to rekey all that information in every single day. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of documents having to be rekeyed every single year. As you can imagine, if each of those forms take 5 to 10 minutes every year to manually be rekeyed into the system, times 100,000, you're going to waste a lot of time having to do that. And what did that paperwork do? It often led to delays in parts of their sales process when they were going to different projects and generating proposals for them, because paperwork, that means you have to, if they're going to quote a price for a specific service, they may have to go look up those specific services in the catalog to make sure they have the most up-to-date, accurate price. So these things were kind of choking their efficiency. Other things like timesheets for their hundreds and hundreds of workers were all paper-based timesheets. So once again, they were struggling with getting those things turned in on time and turned in accurately. The work order process for them was leading to inefficient billing processes and payroll processes. And like I said, they were completing hundreds of thousands of these every single year. And this was leading to a backup in real-time visibility and an overall loss in efficiency across all their teams. So it wasn't specific to just their field teams. It was specific across all their teams and affecting their back office and the ability for them to report on time and have that data transparency to their C-suite. So what was GoFormz able to provide to them? The first thing is digitizing those energy audits, which allowed their sales team, which allowed their teams to once again be able to capture more data faster and accurately. So we're talking about drop-down menus with all their materials and parts, check boxes for ease of use. The second thing was for their sales reps, they were able to complete forms right on site and be able to instantly generate proposals where they were while they were there. They didn't have to go back to the office and pull a catalog or ensure the right numbers were aligned with the right parts and right services. No, they can now instantly generate their proposals on site and give that directly to a client who is requesting it. So once again, we're talking about billing, we're talking about sales generation and profits. And how do you get those? Well, it's things like that. We're able to give things to the client right when they need them, right in the moment. And when we talk about the timesheets and payroll data, that was then all automated. So by being able to digitize their timesheets, That led to those timesheets being turned in on time and being turned in accurately. And then we were able to tie those timesheets directly into their HR system. So we went from point A to point B all in real time. We closed the gap from having to manually turn in those timesheets, having them to have to be keyed in and reviewed. Now it all goes from the field to the office system right away. There's no more manipulation in between there where things could get lost, they could get delayed, they could get damaged. No, it goes from point A to point B instantly, which is saving them time and obviously saving them money. And then finally, with work orders, they were able to start dispatching those to their field teams. So once again, data could be pre-filled with those. Data could be, already halfway filled out. That could be dispatched to their field workers to tell them where they need to go. And it already had the project data, and it could automatically be routed back to the right team members and managers upon completion. So once again, they optimize their process for their field crews so that things go to the right people at the right time. And then once completed, they get rerouted back to the office managers and the supervisors so that they can do their final review and then have them go into the reporting systems. So what did that solution, how did that impact their bottom line? Because that's the biggest thing, right? You can have the nicest solution in the world, but if it's not impacting your bottom line, it's just a cost still. So for them, on their sales side, it increased their bottom line sales by $10 million, which obviously is a great number. You want to see real numbers like that when possible, because it generates sales faster and more accurate proposals. And that's what we talked about in the moment, generating those proposals with accurate numbers, being able to put that right in front of the client right there on time accurately. That directly led to an increased sales result. And then they also saved $300K in labor costs due to the fact that all the payroll and billing processes were now automated from the field to the office. There was no more rekeying information. There's no more manual manipulation or having to drive that data to the office. There's no more lost data. It was all automated from the front end system to the back end system, and that could all be done instantly and accurately. And then finally, when we talk about sustainability and those initiatives, they cut out 13 tons of paper in their initial rollout of GoFormz. And that is so big for them to be able to state that and tell their clients that they're cutting out, saving trees. They're cutting out the cost of paper because, we don't talk about that. We don't think about it enough, but paper does cost a lot of money, especially when you're filling out hundreds of thousands of different types of forms. And 13 tons is a lot to save, and that goes right to their environmental impact there. So that is really great to see. Our next spotlight is on Elecnor. So you may have heard of Elecnor, obviously, because they employ 24,000 plus employees worldwide, from outside the U.S., obviously in Europe and Latin America, and Europe, and obviously North America, all over the globe, 50 plus countries, 60 years of experience. They're a major player, as we say, in the global infrastructure and services sector. And it's sort of like Oscar Larson, they manage projects from start to finish, and provide those expert services. But for them, the challenge was similar as well, is that they had an over reliance on paper forms and ran into challenges with having that form delivery from the front lines to the back lines, and things being lost, delayed, damaged, or just not being captured accurately, right? The other thing is that when those things weren't captured accurately, they weren't captured on time, they weren't returned on time, that would then lead to delays in projects, right? And that's a big deal when you're talking about large scale projects, that if a form is delayed getting back to a supervisor or getting back to a project lead by a couple of days, well, then that guy or that project manager, they can't then take their action. So that then affects another department who then is delayed by 2 days, and that backs up everybody. So that's why it's so critical when we talk about digital delivery of information in real time. We're cutting out 12, 24, 48 hours of delay there so that someone can receive that information, review that information, see if it's accurate. And if it is, then it proceeds, can make sure there's project continuation and there's no prolonged delays in getting that project across the line. The other thing is that when they're working with remote international sites, making sure that the right people were delivering the right information to the right person can be a struggle. And so by not having a solution that can auto route information, it really led to a breakdown of communication and collaboration. And then finally, there's struggles with long-term recording of information, prompt invoicing. And these are all things associated mainly with paper, because with paper, you have to have filing cabinets, or you have to scan in the information and then upload it manually. You have to make sure it's neatly captured so that the paper doesn't break down over time. And where did we put that? What filing cabinet did we put that in? Where can we look it up? So if we have to reference that project record in the future, it all becomes a chore. And then not to mention, like I said, on the invoicing side, making sure that we're sending the right bills to the right people on time, so that we can make sure we're getting paid according to our contracts with this project, so that we can continue to increase our bottom line there. These are all things that are struggles with paper, and especially as you have large scale projects, those problems tend to intensify over time. So what was the solution when they came to GoFormz? How did we solve that? Well, one thing is that we want to have we didn't want to have something overly complex, because we knew paper was just the core of their issue. They had good processes, they had good things in place, but paper was the core of many of those issues. So we wanted to say, how do we properly onboard them with digital forms that can make them, help them capture more richer data more accurately and faster? Well, it was just the simple principle of digitizing that exact form and rolling out to their technicians. And that is one of the key benefits of GoFormz, is that you don't have to rebuild your form with GoFormz. We basically take the same format, the same form structure, layout, and put it onto your digital device, and then just make it smart. Drop down menus, calculations, image capture, audio capture. But what Elecnor's technicians love, their subcontractors love, is that when they pulled it up on their tablet, it looked exactly like their original form. So the onboard training was quick, it was easy, there was no frustrations, because it looked exactly like the original paper form they were using. It was just a lot easier to use now. And that cut down on them having to invest in extensive training programs, and made the transition paper to digital feel a lot more natural. And then, like I said, now that these digital forms are on their tablets and look like they originally were using, we can now have things like audio capture and image capture, which allow them to capture critical project information and credible evidence for potential, insurance claims or legal claims or safety type forms. So they're able to collect, like I said, a lot more richer information with those forms without having to fundamentally change those operational processes, which made implementation so much quicker. So with all those things taken into account, what was the major impacts that they felt? Well, on one of those processes, those kind of frontline project, work order processes, they were able to reduce a 3 to 4 week procedure down to a single day. And that speaks to the fact that data was getting to the right, from the right frontline people to the correct back office people in real time. Because a lot of their project process includes collecting a lot of data. They have pre-job briefings, they have obviously inspections, they have work orders, they have all types of processes. But the fact that they were able to digitize that and kind of transfer data to the right people as soon as it was completed, that was able to cut down that 72-hour plus process down to less than 24, which is a huge impact when we're talking about making sure projects run on time and even ahead of time. The other thing is that we're able to take the data that they're collecting, organize it, and automatically integrate it to the folders that they want within OneDrive and Google Spaces. So now they have a digital record of all their projects, of all their documentation in the place they want it, and then they can easily look up those records whenever they need to look back historically or look back for any needs. It's all centrally located in the right folders. And then the last couple of things was those real-time documentations allow them to facilitate faster prompt invoicing of their clients, so that they could get paid faster and on time for the projects that they were completing. And once again, you want cash flow coming in on time so that you can continue to roll out, hire more people, roll out more projects, and make sure that the cash balance is always rising, and you're not waiting 60, 90, 120 days for that payment. And then also because of the way that you're able to build your GoFormz digital forms, they had things like required fields in their different forms. So when their field technicians were filling out forms, their subcontractors were filling out different forms, they now were able to make it so that every critical field was filled out before it was transferred to a supervisor, thus maintaining the integrity of the information being captured. And this allowed the work order process to continue on without there being missing critical information. So I can't submit it without having a signature or clicking on this drop down menu or checking off this box, and I can't transfer it on. And that allowed for the continuation of projects with all the correct, by enabling that only it can continue unless the correct information is filled out. So before with paper, I could submit any form, I could email any form over, and half of it could be filled out, it could be incorrect. But now with the rules they set in place with their digital forms, that no longer happens. All the right information has to be filled out before it gets sent for review, and that makes sure its project run on time, they run continuously. And then finally, Bozzuto. So like I said, Bozzuto has been around for almost 40 years. They're a major builder within the East Coast. I'm in DC, so I see their buildings and projects everywhere. And they really are focused on building high quality communities, residential communities, and mixed use projects of all types. And for them, really, the process was tracking all that field paperwork from all their subcontractors. So they had a similar issue, I would say, to Elecnor, in that they had a lot of projects going on, and they utilized a lot of subcontractors. And as we say, sometimes it's hard to collect that information back from them on time, especially when you're relying on paperwork. And so this led to difficulties in maintaining an accurate records across their projects. It would lead to breakdowns and audits. And then overall, their C-suite and their managers and directors felt like they had a lack of visibility into the day-to-day of all these projects and the progress that was going on amongst them. Because once again, if it takes 2, 3, 4 days for a work order or inspection or these records to come in for the subs, and it takes 24 hours for that data to be keyed into your database, they don't have real-time data, a real-time view of what's going on. And so that was something they were struggling with. And then overall, they just wanted a better way to connect their field ops to their project management systems. They want to cut out the manual, the middle processes, the manual rekeying, the driving of forms, the scanning of forms in. They wanted to cut out the middle and make sure the data being captured was going directly into their project management systems. So there was no concerns of what could happen between transit of those forms. So the solution was to utilize GoFormz online form sharing feature, which is what we call public forms, which enabled their subcontractors to basically fill out and submit required paperwork from all their projects without actually needing a GoFormz license. So this is that online form sharing capability is a really cool feature, because once again, it gives specific groups and specific people access to the forms you want them to fill out. They can submit them, and then, but they don't, if they're a temporary user, they don't have to be on your account. And this is what many of our construction customers love if they're utilizing subcontractors. The other thing they configured was these automated workflows that would make sure that once a work order or a specific type of inspection was filled out, then it would be automatically routed to the right supervisor for review and approval. If they reviewed it, once it was completed from a subcontractor and they said, no, this is incorrect, they could bounce it back for review. Or if they noticed that there was follow-up work needed, then that could generate a follow-up request for that work order. And so these automated workflows allowed that as soon as somebody completed a ticket out in the field, that would kick off a automatic process of sharing that information so that next actions can be completed on time. And then the third thing was that basically GoFormz was able to directly integrate with Procore, which was essentially working as their project management system. And this allowed GoFormz to act as essentially the digital front end for their Procore database. And so that clean data could always be feeding those projects, their project data, And so that also the project data could then feed into their digital forms and kind of create that bi-directional sync. And so instead of before, when they had like the paper-based documents and inspections, work orders, project reports, that would have to all be manually keyed back into Procore. And human mistakes happen. I type in a project ID wrong, or I type in a material wrong, stuff like that. Well, that can't happen because of the way that Procore integrates with GoFormz and vice versa. Those materials and those projects can automatically feed into each other. So that's why digital forms are great, because you can have the drop-down menus of the materials. You can have the drop-down menus of the projects. And then those can then auto-populate parts of your form automatically and then feed directly into the associated records within that database. And so that's something that Bozzuto's loved, is that tying those two things together leads to less mistakes, leads to less delays, and leads to more accurate project updates within their systems a lot faster. And so the overall impact for them has been, one, streamlining the subcontractor collaboration efforts and reducing the amount of time it takes to get that information back to the people who need to see it quickly. It's centralized, obviously, the project data across teams. So there's one single source of truth for all the data coming in. It also has improved, obviously, the audit trails across their multi-site projects, and it allows that their project managers can see how their subcontractors are complying across their projects. So they can keep a better eye on if their subcontractors are performing to their standards, and if they are falling behind, they can make corrective actions faster. And then finally, the overall theme with them is having better oversight and data consistency across every site that they are executing upon. So with them, they've seen a dramatic increase in their efficiency, their visibility, and the accuracy of their data. And now they have that single source of truth for all their project data, which has made the higher ups a lot happier, I would imagine. So. And then finally, wrapping this up and kind of putting a bow on this is, why is digital transformation critical for you if you haven't thought about it yet? Well, the thing for me is that certain numbers stand out. When you look at reports, there is, studies that say digital transformation will improve your productivity gains by up to 15%. We talked about one of the clients tonight. It increased their efficiency by 95%. And so these are real. And two, it can also reduce your costs. We think about tools in terms of, I have to buy a tool. It's gonna, that's another cost. But think about the 12 tons of paper that Oscar W. Larson was using. Elecnor, like I said, accelerated their processes by 95%. Time is money, paper is money. So if you're able to save, increase your make your team more efficient by 25-50%, and you're able to reduce tons of paper, you're going to get a quick ROI on your money with a tool like GoFormz, which many of our clients do, which is why they stick with us. And you're not alone. If you're thinking about digital forms, 75% of construction companies are planning to increase their digital form spending. So don't think you're alone. If you're like, I don't see other companies doing this. They may be doing it behind the scenes. You may not necessarily see it, but they may have digital tools that may not be frontline tools, but they may have project management systems. They may have the internal tools that aren't frontline yet. They may be researching and building those tools to implement them soon. So don't think you're alone in this if you haven't started yet. Many are still in the evaluation phases, looking to see what's the best tool to push out there. And once again, it will give you an edge. We've seen so many of our clients, they've come to us because they want to win projects that require these types of tools to be able to capture data faster, like we talked about, for those more complex projects. In our very first slide, one of the first slides, we talked about the millions and hundreds of millions of emails and documents that are processed on just the most average enterprise sized project. They see these tools as a required investment in order to compete and bid for those larger scale deals. And they see it now as a competitive edge versus some of the other companies that don't have these types of front end tools to feed their reporting systems. And then finally, conclusion here, just get started. I say just get started, because once again, it only takes one form to get started to start seeing the efficiency that you can gain with your team. That could be a timesheet. That could be, we talked about many types of forms. We talked about timesheets, inspections, work orders, pre-job briefings. The list goes on and on. you'll start to see quickly the improvement in data accuracy, real-time visibility within a week or two. Because once again, there's no more delays. There's no more, no more delays in that data getting back to you. You're able to construct the rules and conditions of how data is filled out, so everything comes in the right, in the same format every single time. You have cleaner data, richer data, and you're able to see it as soon as it's completed. So that's the thing I would kind of push onto is don't be afraid to try it. You'll be able to start seeing some of those results pretty quickly in terms of the accuracy and the visibility of your projects. And it's fun. And once again, I don't think I press on this enough, but with these clients, a big thing with them too was ensuring compliance and reducing that risk, whether it be for safety. Many of these clients, one thing they brought up was we want to have a clear audit trail when we do our JSAs or we do our toolbox talks. We want to make sure that we documented, that we communicated to them these safety training topics, and we talked about this before the job site, so that if anything does happen, God forbid, we have that documented, that we were training our staff appropriately before they went on the job site every single day. Or it could be just, these types of things that help you avoid OSHA fines or OSHA issues are also critical. So having that digital audit trail is also another thing to think about. And you can start building up with a tool like GoFormz, because we give you that digital depository for all your records built into the platform. So start today. It's super, super simple. Like I said, all you have to do is upload your document. We digitize that same style and format, so your technicians, your field crew love it. They're used to filling it out, and it makes onboarding so simple. And then you just can start building automations off of it. So if you want the data to automatically be sent to you, if you want the data to be sent to any of the databases you connect to, you can start setting up those more advanced rules and integrations in just a couple of clicks. So you can make the data capture experience and reporting experience as simple or as complex as you want to, but all it takes is just simply uploading your form. And that takes just a couple of, it takes a second to upload it and a couple of minutes to customize it the way you want it. But the best part is it keeps your exact same design. So you keep your branding, you keep your formatting, it makes training so simple. And then, like I said, use cases. We talked about many use cases today, but as you can see here, the use cases are wide-ranging and totally customizable to you, from installation reports to equipment maintenance, work orders, JSAs, the list goes on. Really, digital forms is essentially, kind of industry agnostic, and it's use case agnostic. We have use cases for almost everything, and it's really your prerogative of how you want to use this. And we integrate with everything. Procore, we just pushed out our Autodesk cloud construction integration, Salesforce, Ignite, BIM 360. You see them all here. So if you already have systems in place, you're already in the right direction. We can be your digital front end to make sure that data flowing into those systems is clean, it's structured, and it's going to be accurate before it touches those, I call them those precious databases, because we want to make sure that we're putting clean, accurate data into those reporting systems, so that we're not getting incorrect reporting out. And then here are just some of our customers. So like we talked about some major customers today, but we have customers all across the board, from the old castles to government, like ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation, to Vestas. So big or small, we can support the needs of however you want to scale your use cases, whether it's one use case or 40 use cases, like I believe Elecnor has. Many of these customers have 20 plus use cases with us, which is really cool, because you can have them all within one app. All it takes to get started is go to GoFormz.com, check out the website, check out these stories. If you'd like to check out these stories, you can go right to our resource section at GoFormz.com, and you can click on the customer story section. You can see the case study for Elecnor and Oscar W. Larson here. And then you can click through and look at all the rest of the case stories for construction. You can even filter it by the integration type that you want to go through here. So if you want to see Acumatica or Procore, QuickBooks, Salesforce, you can filter it by the integration that you care about to see how it could work for your use case. So feel free to go in here, check it out for yourself, and get started today. We give you a 14-day free trial. You get a dedicated account executive to work through the trial with you, and tell them tell them Keith sent you. Maybe they'll help you out even more. But no, our team helps out everyone really, really well, and we love to get you started today. So that is going to be it for me. I appreciate you letting me take you through 3 of our customers today and their use cases. I hope we can help you out the same way and kicking off your digital transformation journey. Like I said, if you have any questions for myself, my name is Keith Bateman, and I will be here. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, or just email our team at sales@goformz.com, or start your very own free trial, 14-day free trial today. Have a good one, everyone. Can't wait to see you on our next session, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.